Russell Wilson of the Denver Broncos, one of the worst contracts of all time, one of the worst trades of all time by any team ever. Yeah, you heard that right. The Denver Broncos will have not one, not two, not 40 million, not 50 million, but $80 million in dead
Mhm.
cap just because that's how bad Russell Wilson was to their organization. So they said, no, no, we're just going to cut you, get rid of you now, get the cancer out of the locker room. And then what does Pittsburgh do? Well, they're like, oh, we like washed up, mediocre quarterbacks. We tried our luck with Mitch Trubisky. We said we liked Mason Rudolph. We drafted Kenny Pickett simply because he went to Pitt and his name Pickett is close enough to Pittsburgh there. But now Russell Wilson is going to be there for $1 million as the next Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback with 13 touchdowns last year, 26 touchdowns this year, or sorry, last year he had
Ye
15 his first year in Denver. Then he had 26 there. Kenny Pickett has only had 13. So they've struggled at quarterback. Do you think this is a solution, or do you think you should try and get someone in the draft this year and then maybe let Russ, get benched?
I think that it's a fine move for them in the short term. Only $1 million, you're not paying him very much, and his ceiling is, like, bringing them to the playoffs, which is what they did with Mason Rudolph last year. Can he make their offense better? I mean, their offense couldn't get any worse. We call them the Guantanamo Bay Steelers for a reason because Kenny Pickett, for some reason, watching the Steelers play offense last year was eye-gruelingly bad every way across the board. Do I think Russell Wilson will make it better? Slightly. Maybe then it's from Guantanamo Bay. Maybe they go to Alcatraz next. Maybe it's a slight upgrade. But overall, I mean, low risk, low return. Like, I think their ceiling is probably a playoff game. But other than that, like, their solution is not going to be Russell Wilson. He's
Yeah.
35 years old. We saw how much he fell off his last season in Seattle. And then his 2 years in Denver were a complete disaster. This year, they salvaged somewhat of his marketability. He's going to get paid 1 million, and then the Broncos are still going to pay him $38 million to not be on their team. But in the short term, sure. If he's going to be a mentor, then why not?
Yeah, I think he could be a mentor because you could definitely see the Steelers going for someone like a Bo Nix or a JJ McCarthy in the draft here. So I think that could be a good move to the Steelers. And I'm not saying he's as bad as this player, but like it could be a similar situation to when Cam Newton went to the Patriots, where he was kind of at the tail end of his career, had some washed up years in Carolina, and then decided to try his luck with the New England Patriots there. And I think with Russell Wilson, where you're going to a team that wins every single year, probably have a good vibe with Mike Tomlin in the locker room there. And then the person it works the most for is going to be Jalen Warren and Najee Harris because Russell Wilson is going to be checking the ball down to them regularly. They have an offense catered more towards Russell Wilson, where you have two good running backs there. And then George Pickens is better than Jerry Jeudy. He's better than Cortland Sutton, at least talent wise there. So if Russ can get him the ball and at least force feed him the ball, I think that could help the Steelers a lot because, like, not a believer in Kenny Pickett, definitely not a believer in Mason Rudolph. So I think now is the time where, okay, Kenny, you're either going to sit behind Russ and compete with him, and that'll bring the best out of you, or you're going to fold and we're just going to draft another quarterback next year. But I think the Steelers are kind of in a weird situation because Mike Tomlin, contract negotiation year. So this is a lot of chips on the table for Tomlin, and then the Steelers kind of just still figuring it out in the post Big Ben era, and they still haven't had someone play better for them than the zombified corpse of Ben Roethlisberger.